I'd like to call the meeting of the Finance Committee to order at 5:01 PM Thursday, August 28th, 2025. Mary Mawhinney is with us via Zoom, but since I was going to be here in person, asked me to chair. So I'll be chairing, but Mary is here and is with us. We, why don't we call the roll? Haley, would you like to call the roll for us?
Supervisor Mawhinney? Sorry, you first, last. Supervisor Wilson?
Here.
Supervisor Ringhan?
Here.
Supervisor Towns?
Here.
And Supervisor Schwartz?
Here. We have the agenda. The agenda was posted. Is there a motion to approve the agenda?
I'll move. Second.
Motion and a second. Any changes to the agenda? Pretty short, so I doubt it. If not, all in favor, aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The agenda is adopted. Citizen participation, communications, and announcements. We do have a couple of printed public comments. As we go through the communications and comments, we would like to limit commentary to 3 minutes. And why don't we start with the printed items? They were posted, but fairly late, so you may not have had a chance to read them. David?
So our first public comment is from Aaron Oliston. I'm submitting the following public comment for tonight's meeting regarding the highway fund shortfall. The public was repeatedly assured in recent years that Rock County's finances were strong and that no, quote, fiasco existed. Yet the 2022 audit, already in the hands of leadership at the time, clearly showed serious problems. Despite being warned, the former administrator and finance director took no corrective action. Their resignations now leave taxpayers footing the bill for a multi-million-dollar disaster that could and should have been prevented. This is not just a budgeting error, it is a breakdown in transparency and accountability. If the truth had been disclosed when first known, corrective measures could have been taken much earlier, saving public trust and public money. I urge this committee to 1. Acknowledge what went wrong and who was responsible. 2. Outline concrete steps to restore fiscal integrity to the highway fund. 3. Commit to stronger safeguards so future administrators cannot ignore audit warnings while telling the public, quote, everything is fine. The public of Rock County deserve honest accounting and leadership that puts taxpayers ahead of political reputations. Respectfully submitted, Aaron Oliston. And next is from Mike Zorel. Back in April 2023, I warned this board and the public about Rock County's repeated audit deficiencies. Then Finance Director Sherry Oja stood at the county board podium and told the public, and I quote, I just want to assure the county board and the public that this is not the case, and that our auditors, quote, have never even hinted at a financial fiasco. She tried to reassure you by saying the county received an unqualified opinion, but that was a clever half-truth. She failed to mention that the same audit report she quoted from also identified a material weakness because the county couldn't even prepare its own financial statements accurately. The auditors had to fix the books for them. That is the opposite of a clean bill of health. Now, taxpayers face a multi-million-dollar catastrophe regarding the highway fund balance, and 2 officials who denied problems, Finance Director Oja and Administrator Josh Smith, both resigned before this bombshell came to light. When Smith gave his farewell speech last November, he openly joked that his resignation was, quote, a very elaborate ruse. He said, quote, not everything is my fault, but everything is my responsibility. And then he didn't just joke. He gave the board instructions on how to provide him with plausible deniability, telling members to simply, quote, nod and agree, yep, that must have been a doozy of a decision there. when future administrators pointed out his mistakes. He even looked at his own legacy resolution and asked aloud if it was, quote, a list of accomplishments or a list of reasons I should leave. And then quoting Kenny Rogers, Smith added, quote, you gotta know when to hold them, you gotta know when to fold them, and you gotta know when to walk away and when to run. And I decided it was time for me to walk away before I had to run. This is not the language of an accountable public servant. This is the language of a man who knew the financial collapse was coming and who ran before it reached his desk. So let's put it together. An audit showing the county could not produce its own financial reports accurately, a finance director who denied it, an administrator joking about running from his responsibilities, and now taxpayers are dealing with the fallout of a multi-million-dollar financial fiasco in the highway fund. This wasn't poor bookkeeping. The audits show a pattern. There was another material weakness because the county submitted federal COVID-19 relief fund reports that contained errors and lacked supporting documentation. There was a significant deficiency for submitting other COVID relief fund reports to the US Treasury with, quote, subrecipient misclassifications.
Thank you. That's the written comment that was submitted. Anyone on Zoom wishing to speak at this time, public members? Anyone on Zoom?
Looks like Mike Zorro is raising his hand.
Mr. Zorro, your commentary was read.
Yeah, Mr. Wilson, almost the full commentary was read. She just left off the last paragraph, if I might read the last paragraph.
Sure, in the spirit of hearing everything that should be said, go ahead.
Thank you. The part that was left off was, and the worst part, all three of these findings were repeat offenses from the prior year. They were warned and nothing changed. This isn't just poor management. When officials are repeatedly warned of material weaknesses, deny them publicly, and then walk away before the consequences emerge, it points to a deliberate cover-up. The taxpayers are now paying the price, and we're left to wonder, what else will surface now that the people in charge have decided to run for the exit? Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else on Zoom with any public comment? Anyone in the room? Public? Any supervisors with comment, non-committee members? Supervisor Woodman.
Thank you. I just like to state that as a member of the Public Works Committee, that we had over a period of time.
Could he get closer to the microphone, please?
I can stand up. Is that loud enough, Mary?
Yeah.
Let me step forward.
Not your written statement.
Thanks.
As a member of the Highway Committee, we did ask about fund balance and never really got a clear answer. And I hope that through this, we use this as a learning experience. We find a better way to do these things, and we work towards a policy, and we find a beneficial way to take care of this balance so that we're not cutting our second most important division of our county services, where we need to maintain our roads, and we've done an outstanding job, and we have very good employees working for us that do an outstanding job. So that's all I'd like to say. Thank you.
Any other supervisors with comment? Any members of the committee with comment? If not, then why don't we move to item number 4, review, discussion, possible action regarding the highway fund balance.
You like me to take that up? Okay. Thank you very much. Earlier this week, I sent out a memo, which is also attached to the agenda packet as well. Just kind of outlining, a little bit of background, discussion points and, hopeful goals from outcomes from this meeting. So I just wanted to provide that, as background. It was determined, the highway fund balance was discussed back on July 31st at the joint committee with planning board staff and finance. And it was determined that there were two issues that needed to be addressed, policy issues that we needed to address. First is the future funding of the highway fund. And the second is the payback of the advance to the general fund from the highway fund. With that, I just want to outline, staff and administration is currently working on developing the 2026 administrator's recommended budget. We'll have that in front of you guys in about a month. So we have a very short time period to get that finished up and ready and presented to county board. So there are some ideas and possible things that we're building or producing in this budget for 2026 that we just wanted to let you know about in case you had any questions or discussions, or that's not a direction you look to move forward in, so that we can make sure that we can be ready to present the 2026 budget in a month. The first is that we're currently building the 2026 budget with the following assumptions. That we're budgeting sales tax above and beyond the 7.5 million to be used for capital and one-time costs. That 7.5 million has been kind of that status quo that has been used for county operations across the board, county operations. So anything above and beyond that would be earmarked more for capital or one-time asks. Budgeting revenue sources in the highway fund at a level that is consistent with prior years to allow for appropriate funding of operations and capital needs. While also trying to acknowledge that we are working to start that payback of that advance from the general fund, as well as potentially borrowing in 2026 for some road construction. Going back to the two issues that are at hand, there are some policy decisions that need to be made, both, fiscally, financially here at Finance Committee, as well as just county board as a whole. Policy decisions on how we're going to move forward with the highway fund, how we're going to fund highway operations in the future. Some possible solutions, and this is not by any means all solutions, it's just a starting point to have a list to talk about. Borrowing for road projects, municipal vehicle registration fee, continued increased property tax levy within the highway fund, continued increased sales tax allocation within the highway fund, reduction in level of maintenance of county roads, or reduction in level of highway services, reduction in replacement of equipment for highway. Some additional policy decisions do need to be made regarding the payback of the advance of the general fund. Some of the solutions that I mentioned before can be used in this area as well. Some additional possible solutions could include reduce expenditures while keeping revenues steady or increasing. One-time transfer from the general fund unassigned fund balance. Really, that's kind of like a forgiveness of that advance, or either in whole or in part. Due to these policy decisions being both operational and fiscal in nature, we're recommending that we meet jointly with the Public Works Committee, so that we can work together so that fiscal decisions aren't being made that could drastically impact operational decisions for the highway department. And I'm happy to answer any questions, kind of give a brief overview of the why we are here, kind of like I did back in at the end of July. I'm happy to go in any direction.
Committee?
Oh, thanks. I have a lot of questions. So first one I'm gonna start off is, was the Baker Tilly invited tonight?
No, they were not.
Okay, is there a reason why?
I did not think about asking them to come, number one. Number two, we're in the middle of our single audit fieldwork right now as well, so I'm working with Baker Tilly on that. So I'm not sure if they would have had staff time to come tonight.
Well, I think they owe a lot of answers because this has been going on for quite a few years as to why we're now dealing with this. So they are partly we are gonna have a discussion with them at some point.
I think we need to remember that Baker Tilly or outside auditors are here to make sure that our finances are accurate, right? We have no material misstatements. And we don't have any material misstatements. We are not accounting for anything inaccurately. We're not spending money incorrectly, I guess you could say.
So then we shouldn't have to change from
Um,
short term to long term. This should have happened a couple of years ago. This should not have happened in 2020. So that's the question on the table for them.
Sure. I did ask them about why it was maybe not discussed earlier. And it was really more so, so in 2024, we tried to do a lot of work of cleanup of some of those transfers and advances before the end of the year. If you look back in previous audits, you would just see if those transfers weren't necessarily cleaned up at the end of the year, the due to, due froms, things like that. So it was in the middle of lots of different advances and transfers, so it wasn't necessarily picked out.
I get it, but they're Baker Tilly, they're an accounting firm, they should be, this should have been, while clearing. We should have had this discussion last year's budget on a minimum, if not the prior years. So I do think at some point, this discussion with Baker Tilly has to occur. And I'll see some time, I have a bunch of other questions, that was just my first one.
Yes, go ahead.
That part of the foundation of this meeting is to get this kind of input so that we know if we have the joint meeting, Baker Tilly, you need to be there. And it's not really an ask, it's a,
Sure.
they
And,
need to be there. Secondly, Baker Tilly is
yes,
scheduled to be presenting at the
September
September
11th.
11th county board meeting.
just and
two
finance,
pieces, yeah.
on September 11th.
That's
Yep.
right. Okay, so that's just that part of it, so. My first parts of the questions are gonna go towards, I think, the back half of what you're asking about is. How do we talk about taking things out of the general fund? It's one thing if we were to, let me understand correctly, if we were to put the whole 14 million-ish. Out of the general fund now, that'll take us down to a 15% on our reserve. So that means we gotta cover about 8.7 million. To get it back to 20%.
I didn't do the calculation on what the dollar amount would be,
I did.
but
So it is.
I could bring up.
It's
you know, I have a spreadsheet, I could bring it
8.657,
up
but the
really quick.
point being is, at the end, that's really the shortage we're dealing with. When
If
it
we
comes
wanted
to
to
the
get back
general
into
fund to get back
policy.
into policy is
Yep.
8.6 million, not 14 million.
Yep.
So I don't believe we need to make $14 million decisions regarding highway or any other department. And the other part is this is not a highway only issue. This goes across all departments within this county. And if we have to find savings in other places, that's what we need to do. Because we are taking general fund money and utilizing it. So anywhere where the levy is being pressed or sales tax that we can either one, not do, we're not required to do, we need to find every source to not be pushing this out on the public at this point. I do have a question, and that's why I wish another question, why I wish Baker Tilly was here. We have this about $5.8 million multi-year surplus sitting in the Rockhaven Fund. And since that can now be classified as long-term, not short-term, why is that not replenishing the general fund? Why are we not utilizing that to do some of, or a portion of that to offset some of this?
So Rockhaven is an enterprise fund, just like the highway fund, so it is not unassigned or undesignated, it is assigned to Rockhaven itself.
Except it's a long-term now, where those funds, no differently, we're being forced to take money out of the general fund because of long-term deficits.
Yes,
There's no reason that those long-term surpluses do not come to the general fund.
you,
There, those monies, and quite frankly, with all the money that we take out of the levy, the finance. Rock Haven, why would we not be using that fund? Why are those, I really want a firm understanding of why, and we cannot do that. Before we make any real decisions here.
you would need to make a budgetary decision. Either mid-year budget amendment or, when developing the 2026 budget. To identify using Rock Haven fund balance to either fund Rock Haven operations and not supply property tax levy to the Rock Haven, right, enterprise fund. Or a transfer out of Rock Haven enterprise fund and transfer into general fund or wherever to use those funds. Because right now they are assigned to Rock Haven, because you couldn't neatly identify whether those revenues came from property tax levy or charges for services or that kind of thing, but yes.
Well.
So right
it's-
now
it's
they are
just
assigned for
it's-
Rock Haven,
Right,
but-
I understood, but it's the same concept of why we're being forced into doing a long-term deficit push.
Yep, and
The long-term surplus goes the opposite direction, in my view. I'll let the experts at accounting come back and tell me why I'm crazy.
no,
But-
and the,
Why we can't use a portion of that.
yep, and the goal with enterprise funds are supposed to operate like a business. So they collect the majority of their revenues through charges and fees for services. And that is why they have their own fund balance, so they can also then pay for their own expenses as they come out of
As the
capital.
more things like that we can do, the less damage we're gonna have to start doing on other departments and potentially DPW if we're really serious about dealing with it. This doesn't deal with going forward and the issues we're gonna continue to have in this highway fund, because this is just this year. I guarantee probably next year's gonna be another 5 million, and the year after that, it's gonna be another 5 million. It's gonna be like this for a while. They're gonna be running deficit. Would be my guess. Based on the way we've done everything up to this point.
So I can tell you that the 2025 budget did not use highway fund balance. When that was being built, it did not use highway fund balance, it used sales tax to fund capital expenditures like equipment, road projects, or prior year sales tax for road projects as well. So the previous policy decisions of using depreciation to fund things like capital equipment was not used when building the 2025 budget. So hopefully we're starting to turn it.
And what is, and again, this will be more towards you and as well as administrator, like, what is the target you want to bring the general fund back to? Is it 20, 21? What are we attempting? What in our mind that we attempted to do this? I think 20, personally, but
Yeah.
right, but are we trying to?
If you ask me for the sweet spot, first of all, the obvious answer is within board policy.
Right.
20 to 25, if you're asking me, middle of the road kind of guy, go right in between the two. That would be the goal.
Then that
To
would
get
be,
there.
then that would mean 14 million, because that 14 million would put us at 22.9. By my calculation.
And I would also want, before we establish that as a hard and firm goal, I'd also want to hear from, our bond expert to say, like, what should our goal be to preserve and protect the bond rating, and how soon do we need to get there? Because I think those are two key pieces of information.
Okay.
It's one thing if she says you need to do it right now in order to preserve that bond rating, or does she recommend you need to get there over multiple years? Those are really two different ways of framing up how we respond to that in conjunction with enterprise funds, because your point about what we do with our property tax levy, right now, a portion of that is going to offset operating costs at Rock Haven. And I think that's why you're asking, well, can't this be used for something else? The answer is yes.
So I'm just gonna limit myself right now to the paying the 14 off, but then what do we do? What's in the KIP that we have coming out? We haven't seen a KIP yet. What types of projects are in there that could actually be postponed? So we don't have to put this on taxpayers. I mean, is there, nobody's asking for solar panels and that on.
And,
There's a lot of.
But we haven't seen
We haven't finalized
it,
it.
so I have no idea what's in it.
Yeah.
Yep.
So,
Are there things in the kit that you, can do is pulling his computer out? There some of the things we're sorting through now is what is the pain of putting those things off?
right.
What are the
That's
secondary and third costs?
Yep.
You know, some maybe,
there's a lot more asks than money, of course.
yeah,
Of
there always
course.
is.
That's fair, okay. I can run you down a really quick list here of 2026, mobile command post of 1.6 million. Siren replacement of 66,000, siren system upgrades of 531,000. This is all gonna be part of the budget document as well, that'll be brought forward. Healthcare center demolition of 1.3 million, UW Whitewater Rock County roof replacement, 240,000. UW Whitewater Rock County restroom restoration at 85,000. Newville Road Fuel Island, 600,000. Boiler replacement at the medical examiner's extension, 350,000. Implement DPW stormwater management plan, 585,000. DWRC storm masking, 75,000. Fairgrounds plumbing upgrades, 78,000. Child support, office renovation, 375,000. Card access upgrades of 260,000. Courthouse courthouse carpet replacement, 50,000. Courthouse parking deck repairs, 150,000. Courtroom renovations, 95,000. Purchase of solar, I think that one's changing a little bit, but 300,000. Fairgrounds bathroom project, 150,000. UPS replacement at IT 911, 55,000. UPS replacement at the jail, 55,000. Controls upgrade or update at medical examiner extension, 275,000. Overhead door replacement, DPW, 50,000. Finance, I asked for some office and cubicle updates in our accounting payroll area at 100,000. Human services transit vehicle replacement, 150. And
These are all asks.
these are all.
No,
asked.
I get it. I mean,
These are all.
this is where and that's where I'm sort of getting to. So I'm assuming you guys are gonna pare this list
Yep.
down.
Yep,
Yeah.
and
Understanding
These are all-
the predicament we are.
I was just
Yeah.
watching, like, making sure no one went and died for
Yes.
violation. These are asks.
these are asked.
And sometimes communication is a way to put them on the radar. It might be not immediate, might be years down the road.
Exactly.
And,
That's where we're going to.
and these dollar amounts are
Those
also.
two big ones I say we can put off.
Yep, those are
Right off the bat.
amounts, and there might be offsetting other revenue sources like grants or things like that, that are already, that can be applied towards that. For example, the airport has a lot of projects where it's like a
Federal
95%, so the total project might be $1 million.
So I just wanna make sure, my whole point of this was that whatever, the part of this has to be thinking of delay on some of these types of projects to not utilize the sales tax or however we're planning on funding some of this stuff. If that's what has to happen.
Do you have a total of the asks?
Yes. Total is about 43.5 million.
Oh, great.
Something in that.
And
Yeah.
again, that is total ask.
I know, of course. I
And
just-
there are, a lot of projects do have some offsetting other
So
sources.
that's one thing, and then I also do believe on the other side of it, part of that bullet point should be cuts in other departments. Reduce the strand, because I don't think this is a DPW and issue, I'll hold it now.
Okay, Supervisor Ringham.
On the capital fund, do we have a breakdown? Is that like a 5-year spread typically? For future projects?
We do a
Capital.
5-year capital
5-year.
improvement plan, and so the multitude of projects that I was listing is just 2026. So far.
Okay.
Yep, but we do have a
You
plan.
have a breakdown so that, you can prioritize, because I'm still new
Yeah.
here, and so it's kind of hit me like a ton of bricks.
Yeah, we're not gonna come with probably not like 43 million a month.
No.
It's
No,
all
I-
gonna be spread out.
City budgets
In-
and
yeah,
state
but,
budgets, but this is
yeah.
my first county and
Yeah.
your pots of money are different than what I've
And-
dealt with in the past.
And I think one of the most interesting things about the budget process is communicating. Sometimes you communicate an ask that you may not need today, maybe 2 to 3 years down the road.
Right.
So the immediacy of this is, you know, it sounds like a gigantic number, and it is. But the true number is often,
Right, yeah, like
Yeah.
I said, over a 5-year period typically is what you have. We always call it the capital fund. The wish list, but it's usually a 5-year window so that you prioritize the
yes,
needs versus
want.
the wants.
And there's about 20, I would say about 20 million in asks that could be like need sales tax funding or borrowing in some way. There's about 20 million in asks in 2026 of the 43.5.
There are all kinds of different, you know, evaluation methods, funding, you know, the airport, the runways are funded differently and reimbursed differently, so.
Just
You know,
that-
each one we have to carefully look at, so. And this is good for us to meet with you because you're receiving some information, we're getting some feedback. So, and that way, you know, really the lay of the land as you come into a bigger meeting with Public Works, because our goal is to get some direction that we know, then
Mhm.
our actions make more sense to you if we get the direction. If you say, oh yeah, we did tell
Right, and what other pots of money? I know
Mhm.
sales tax has been mentioned. Revenue funding has been mentioned, general funds.
Mhm.
Are there other pockets of money or possible grants, federal, state money for some of these projects or? No.
Grants, I think, are starting unfortunately to dry up. We're really facing the pressure of less and less places to go to pull the strings on money at a federal or state level. This is gonna be something we probably, the truth of it is, we're gonna have to figure it out.
And a lot of the departments, when they're putting together their asks for capital, things like that, are already cognizant and looking for grant opportunities and acknowledging that, you know, there's the grant opportunity here or there. So we're already taking some of that into account, at least on the capital side of things. But departments are more in tune with those opportunities just because of their, you know, their networking and grants are very specific to
Mhm.
this
Yeah.
area or that area, and so,
We
you
used to
know,
call them silos.
Yep.
When it came down from
Yep.
Fed state because they
Yep.
are. in
they know
silo,
which
you
ones
can't switch
they
them back
can
and
apply
forth.
to,
Right.
yeah.
Thank you.
Bill, is Dewey there?
Yes, he is.
He's been looking at some budget items. I think, could he kind of give an inkling of what he's been looking at as far as that he could have cuts or savings? Put him on the spot.
Yeah. Can you come up here by the owl? Yeah.
So when we looked at our capital, obviously, as you guys know, we've been trying to make adjustments to the construction efforts and maintenance of the highways, as well as updating our fleet, which has been a long-standing issue. But looking at what we have on the equipment side, this year is the first year we're not looking for a quad axle, which is not something we've done because we've gotten to a point where we're caught up with those for a while.
What's that, about $400,000 asset?
Yeah, about 400,000 per quad. We had in the capital improvement per submittal, we had 2 tandems at 375,000 apiece. We had 2 single axles for 350 apiece. We had 3 different pickups that we were replacing. We had projected a backhoe with a plate compactor for the construction effort. We have a lowboy trailer. We have a Parks UTV and trailer as well as a skid loader trailer. All encompassing for that total ask, we were at about 2.36 million. And if you look, I think Kristen had some equipment numbers in the packet she sent to you on what we have bought in the recent years. We're coming from the presentation. So we're about half of what we've been doing the last few years, which was part of the strategic plan to kind of uplift our fleet. Okay, now we're starting to realize that benefit and we're getting to a point where we can kind of normalize. That being said, I don't necessarily, I'd prefer not to, understanding we're in a tough spot, but I prefer not to just stop. But if we could cut back some, we might be able to create some savings. If we were to eliminate one tandem and one single axle, as well as eliminating the lowboy or no, sorry, we were gonna keep one tandem, one single, the 3 pickups and the backhoe. I'm looking at my chart and it's highlighted. I'm trying to remember which ones are which. We eliminate a tandem, we eliminate a single, we eliminate the 3 pickups, we eliminate the backhoe. And get the remaining items, we would be at about 940,000. So we'd be able to save over $1.8 million or so, something like that.
What kind of position does that put you in? Obviously, this equipment, even if you ordered it, you weren't gonna get it in 26 probably anyways.
Right,
But
we
what's
wouldn't
this
get it for
do?
2 years at least. So we wouldn't really realize the benefit of those vehicles for a couple of years anyways. We are in the process. We've got a number of trucks sitting right now between Monroe and our shop that are on hold to get body builds done. And those are trucks that are 23 budget, 24 budget. So it's always 2 years behind roughly is what we project on the trucks. If we did that, maybe, and we can work our way out of the situation we're in, then maybe we can reconfigure our thing and maybe we grab an extra tandem 1 year and an extra single down the road to try and catch back up a little bit over time. There's certain pieces that we need to try and address, like the lowboy trailer. We've got one right now that's down and we're looking at minimum probably 30,000 in repairs. Higher end, maybe 65,000 in repairs to get that back on the road safely. So that's why we're kind of wanting to leave that one in there, because if we don't, we're gonna be a little bit in a tough spot. The backhoe, we just have to maintain it and keep kind of putting money into it till we can get to a point where, we've replaced it. We can rent them if we have to. I mean, we can find other avenues to get through if we have to. It just tends to be a little bit more pricey annually doing that, but we can make it work. From a construction standpoint, we have 3 projects projected for next year. We have County J, that's from Avalon Road to County O, that's parallels the interstate out there. County O would be Delavan coming out of the city of Janesville. That one we had on the docket last year and it got pushed back. We did a number of years ago put an overlay on that and it's holding up better. We've been putting a lot of maintenance to that to keep it in decent shape. We could potentially hold that one off. That would save us about 2.7 million, 2.8 million. But we do also have a funding mechanism, a LRIP grant for that for about 420,000, maybe 421. Okay. So that's an option that would save us the 3 million up front because it's reimbursed, right? So we're the 500 comes in or 400 comes in after the fact. We also have County O, which is down in that same area that goes from the city of Janesville limits out to Highway 14. It's not as big of a project. It's longer, but there's pulverized and overlay through part of it, which is a much cheaper option. Gives us a good option with that because the base is in good shape. There is part of it we have to reconstruct. That one's 1.5 million. And then we have 504,000 in LRIP coming in for that.
Kristen?
Or they have them backwards?
Yeah, I'm backwards. So, County Highway J is 2.8
J is-
million with 504 coming in from LRIP and O is 1.5 million with about 420 coming in from LRIP.
Yeah, okay. And then we also have a short segment, a little over half mile at County M, which is up near 59, goes down to Milton Harmony Town Line. That road's in really rough shape. That one we've got 600,000 on, so we would like to at least get that because it's in pretty tough shape, but if we had to, we could patch it. Just not gonna be cost effective on that one.
John?
Maybe one of the things we may want to do, and the purpose of having the joint committee would be to perhaps ask Dewey tonight, like, come with a list of things and a reshuffling of your capital improvement projects to show, because that committee would need to weigh in tonight, but it would have to be transparent. I think that's really the ask, like, what can you bring back in a joint committee that would show us a way to offset expenses, or what, what roads are holding up better than others where it may delay capital improvements? What equipment can we put off, and what equipment really, we may put it in the budget this year, but you're not gonna receive it for 2 years because of the backlog of orders. So I think, is that really more the ask?
Well, I think part of it, if I can answer.
Yeah.
Yes,
Yes.
yes, sorry. Sorry.
I'm just talking like we're talking.
I know.
Yeah,
I think right now the ask is we need to be looking at all areas like this, but if it's possible. But what I am gonna make a statement on, I do not wanna put us at risk of not being able to maintain our roads, clear our roads. Or any of that, so we can't have roads deteriorating. The point, I'm not sure if some of these have federal monies where there's a time frame involved, where you gotta do the work in a certain period of time.
We have a six-year window on the two LRIP projects, and they were applied for the same year. And I believe I have to look at them specifically, but I think it's either 2028 or 2030. It's one of those two. It's in that cycle. I just don't remember which.
So if we were to
We have a little
potentially
bit.
delay something, we have some
Yeah.
room. To get by, but unless, like you said, some of these things, if the roads are that bad, I think I don't know, patching them and not dealing with it isn't the right. probably
Right,
the right thing either.
And from the joint committee budget meeting that we had, you guys kind of saw the map that had everything, and then you saw the list that's behind the 5-year plan that's
Right.
coming up too, that we've gotta, contend with,
Supervisor Mooney, was there anything more from you?
No, thank
Okay.
you, Dewey.
Supervisor Towns?
Thank you. Since so, back to before we started talking about the specific projects, I just wanna clarify where we are, summarize. The number we're looking at is 14.5 million. Is that?
Can you speak up, Deb?
The,
Deb?
that we need to, that is being carried as a deficit.
The total
Yes,
advance.
yes,
Total
yeah.
advance.
Yep,
And so, okay, cause at one point it was 17.
that was when we were still working through field work, yes.
Okay.
And not taking into account, current receivables, so that's subtracting off the current receivables, like billing the towns or the states, in January and February for work done in the prior year and not having it quite yet, or, when it was received. that kind
Right,
of
so
thing.
we've established it as 14.
Yep.
Okay. Right, and we are going to change our accounting practices at DPW, not using depreciation to fund.
That is a policy decision that I would strongly suggest, yes,
Well,
absolutely,
that's what
Yeah.
caused this whole problem.
yes.
absolutely.
And so, so I think that's
Mhm.
a given, that we
Yeah.
need to stop that. And so, and then you said in 2025, they did
Mhm.
not advance any?
We
That's
did
right.
not, we did not use depreciation to fund any capital projects in 2025.
So is the 2025 budget going to contribute at all then?
It should not, no,
Should not.
Shouldn't. So all of it is long-term then,
yes.
if you're talking 12 months is correct.
Yep.
Okay, all right. And then, I don't know, this is a multiple year problem. This has taken a number of years, probably 4, was when I look back at the auditor report to get to this point. I don't think it's realistic to think we're gonna solve it in one budget. So I think we need to have a plan to pace ourselves probably for at least 3 years, I would say, to get this straightened out. Our cash position has not changed. So, the real issue here is that if we just quickly reaccount for everything and give ourselves less than our unassigned, we're violating our policy. That's what the real issue is.
By 8.7 million.
Yeah. Yeah. So as far as, bonding, it seems like that shouldn't be an issue. Our bond rating, if we can get ourselves above 20%. We should, that should be. Problem, I'm just kind of summarizing, the real problem is that we're outside our own policy.
Yes.
And as unassigned. And one other thing I wanted to ask you, just to make sure. Oh, I know, and it had to do with previous audits.
Mhm.
And there was nothing, I could find nothing in them that ever referred to this at all.
Nope.
So, and did they put anything? So for someone earlier said it was.
It is in 24, it's right in the front. They acted
Not
that
in the
statement,
paper
one of
you
the
gave
page,
me,
yeah.
not in the manager's letter.
2024 audit.
Yeah, it's in there. No, I read
I
it.
have it.
It's on,
What did it say?
I'll tell you in a second, let me just find it. But it was in. It's not on page 1, it's on page 2.
I did not see it as a material.
Well, it doesn't say it's material, but it's called out.
Yeah.
I'll find it, you guys can
That's-
keep going
that-
until I
that-
find it,
it's-
and I'll read
I
it.
looked at the material weaknesses and I did not see it in any.
No, it's in the
Correct,
early,
it's not
it's in
in
the
the
early,
really.
no. Well, here I actually highlighted it. So
Mhm.
here it says. So it says under the general fund. General fund's unassigned balance decreased by 15.3 million. The unassigned fund is approximately 15.5% of the combined funds. This is outside the range. The decrease is unassigned fund balance due to recognizing a long-term advance to the highway fund. So they put in their early part, that's on page,
Are you looking at the
7.
MD&A?
yeah.
The MD&A is actually written by staff.
Oh,
I
you
wrote
write this?
yes.
Okay, well then you wrote it. All right, I thought they were,
So I
Yes.
guess, for anything I saw from the.
okay, so
auditors,
that's just
never
from
mentioned
us.
it.
Okay, never mind. All right.
So it must not have been,
Well, materiality would be what, about 10%,
But-
5%?
but it must not have risen to the level that they were concerned
Correct.
about it.
Correct.
Yeah.
So, which doesn't mean we shouldn't change our way.
No.
Correct.
Because we should. But I don't think we need to panic about it either. But I think we need to make a plan, and I would suggest at least 3 years to get this back to where it needs to.
I'll recognize myself. I've got a question regarding the capital improvement budgets. To what extent do the department heads, when they're submitting their budget, indicate the impacts of delay?
Well, usually if I'm a department head, I'll speak from a department head and then the county administrator perspective. As a department head, part of what I would do is to advocate as strongly as possible for my function. That pretty much, and I'm just amongst friends, that it is gonna have far-reaching implications if you don't do X. As a county administrator, part of my job is to really understand that that is the basis from whence they're coming from. And to also really understand the true relationships between things. Ask probing questions so that I understand what is truly bad and worse. So, you know, what part of my role will be is in the capital improvement plans to come out and show you and say, this is why I think this should be ranked this high, and this is why I think you should take these steps and delay these projects. So that's really my role, is to sift through all that, filter through it, knowing both sides of the fence, how I would advocate for something. And know how, you know, when they say, wait a minute, we can wait. Because, you know, part of the urgency in being a good advocate for your department sometimes means. Yeah, I have to set aside and be a strong advocate, because that's what I'm evaluated on. And that's what I'm graded on. What metrics do I achieve? Part of my role is to go, wait a minute, we have to look at the whole picture including new things that are thrown on us, like, do we need to do that? We need to dig out of this hole. And therefore, ergo, we might have to relay these items. So it's, it's competing, understanding both sides. And not every department head advocates the same or emerges from the same perspective.
Kristen?
Yep, and I just want to follow up with that. As part of our process, we do ask department heads or departments when they are identifying their capital needs for the 5-year plan. We do ask them to provide a priority. And so we give them kind of a little bit of a definition of how to prioritize that. One is mandatory. The project is addressing an immediate health or safety issue or is mandated by federal or state law, regulation, court order, etc. A high priority, the project is likely health and safety issue or may significantly affect operations or services, must be addressed within the next 2 to 3 years. Average priority is a project is desired, but is likely not a health or safety issue, should be addressed within the next 5 years. Or future consideration, the project is a long-term request and is not necessary within the next 5-year planning period, could be maybe at the tail end or something along those lines. So we do ask for some of that feedback as well from departments, so we can get a better understanding of each of the projects as well.
I just want to, I guess, highlight the costs associated with deferred maintenance in some instances. One of the items that was read was a boiler. And deferred maintenance might be very costly further on down the line. And so I think while we've exercised, I think, some care in the past, we're going to be exercising a great deal more care to determine whether or not a deferment and how long a deferment makes some sense. I'll also tag on to Supervisor Towns' comments in terms of this is a multi-year project, not certainly a 1-year kind of project. If we were looking at this from a medical standpoint, the first thing you want to do is stop the bleeding. And stopping the bleeding, I think, was addressed in terms of the depreciation use. So the bleeding at least is stemmed a little bit, if not stopped. We've got to do that, and then we've got to look at how we turn on this. One final comment I'll make is as we move forward with this, because I anticipate there are going to be more meetings, including the joint meetings with highways. We've got to remember that the messengers are not the targets. And so, be kind to John and Kristen as we go through this. They're identifying an issue that we need to address. And just keep that in mind. Supervisor Schwartz.
Thanks, Chris. But one thing we do need to keep in mind, if we do this, we do have an 8.7 million that has to be dealt with immediately. It's not a 3-year plan here to deal with this. If we need to bring ourselves back 20%, that is going to be an impact, and we do need to deal with that. There's no deferring that. If we were to pay all the 14 and push it there, we have a problem immediately that needs to be resolved.
Yeah.
And it's going to have budget impact,
Unless we
and
would
we need to make sure we're dealing with that.
adjust our policy to.
Yeah.
cover-
Or we adjust the policy to deal with it. That's another option. Right,
A 3-year plan.
right,
But this
exactly.
one,
That is an option.
That is.
But if we don't do that, then it's immediate, at least for $18.7 million.
Other questions or comments from supervisors on the committee? Supervisor Towns.
I would just, and I know we're a long ways from having a final solution, but I just think it would be a very heavy lift, would be for me, to say we're gonna go out and institute a wheel tax or tag this onto the tax and we can split it out. It is an accounting snafu that got out of hand. And I think we need to again, our cash position has not changed. We need to figure out how to get this so that we can get that within our own policy. I don't think. I don't think I could support just tagging it onto the levy or starting the bill tax to come.
Yeah, I did some back of the envelope kind of calculations on real tax too, and it's not gonna help us much. You know, the dollars that it generates are pretty minor compared to the challenge.
Compared to the pitchfork. I do have one more quick question. Do we have any understanding how other counties are actually financing their equipment? Is everybody using the silly depreciation method, or are they doing different things?
Never heard of that process before. Told us.
It used to work when equipment wasn't very expensive.
Sure it did.
I can
And you
just
were
tell
in a,
from
and you
afar
were
that
constantly,
use
you were in a
that-
flow.
that-
And
It
use
sure
about
worked, yeah.
Equal amounts,
Right.
right?
Exactly.
I budget and replace about 1.5 million and I'm collecting about 1.5 million in depreciation. That's when it works, yeah.
But knowing that's not where we're at, we've had inflation, we've had everything under the sun hit and sort of obviously throwing assets that probably should have never been in there in the first place. 40-year assets, it just makes no sense that we put those in. But the question then becomes is what are other counties? Are they just all financing their equipment? Are they using sales tax revenues? What do they do?
Yes, I don't specifically know what they're doing on all of the equipment. I do know, I think Jefferson at one time was doing cash and depreciation, but then they were subsidizing it to make up that difference.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, you depreciate $100,000 asset over 10 years, because we follow the state depreciation model, right? You salvage that at 15%. A lot of times we're not getting 15% of that in auction proceeds, or we're bleeding it out so long that you aren't getting the depreciation off it anymore. Then you go in 10 years and try and still buy that $100,000 piece of equipment, less than 100,000 more than likely. You just can't, the model doesn't work. So then what they were doing is using either sales tax or some other mechanism to fund the balance of it.
So they're using levy or they're using sales tax funds at the end of the day.
Or borrowing, I think, you also look at. Like, some pieces of equipment are just significantly large amounts of money, right? Millions of, like $1 million piece of equipment is not something you would cash fund, you would want to borrow for
Right,
that.
absolutely.
Supervisor Ringham.
Just thinking about the counties association meeting coming up next month, maybe that would be something if there's an open discussion. Or I don't know what's on their agenda for specific meetings, but that might be something to address at the counties association. And see what others have on their radar, how they're resolving it.
You know, and here's just some feedback generally, like we can certainly ask counties, it's who you ask. You know, which is more important than a small rural county in northern Wisconsin is gonna operate 1,000% differently than we do. And, you know, there are political decisions embedded in this. I think where I would always come from is probably figuring out, you know, giving you factual information and building some options, and then you deciding, because you own this county, what is your comfort level moving forward? What decisions can you support? And that it can't hurt for us to ask some counties, maybe in size.
Just get some
And,
ideas.
yeah, to see if they have anything that's new and different. I'm always reluctant to say that it's never a true apples to apples comparison.
Yeah.
Because, you know, even subtleties in schedules, like we may replace our backhoes every 10 years versus 8. All those things can really compounded effect. Or maybe the operations that they don't offer this service and that affects this levy distribution. So it's never truly, that's what I would caution you, an apple to apples. So even at the county conference, like one county may say we do this, and the truth is none of us have the silver bullet. It's a lot of very difficult decisions and grinding it out. It's really, to be honest with you. And I just like to tell you that.
It's a thought.
Dewey, was that a response to something John said? Or?
Yeah, well, I wanted to kind of add on to John's and maybe what you had asked Supervisor Ringham. John's right. I mean, I know there are some counties, you know, the county I grew up in, they get this much money and do with it what you need to, and it's just a budgeted amount, and then they've got to figure it out. But what we could do to kind of get the ideas, if you like, is County Highway Association, we do surveys all the time. I mean, I could reach out to them and ask them to send the survey out to the 72 counties, see what feedback we get, at least. You know, John's right, there's different dynamics that go into that decision, but
Right.
at least you'd have some different
Some, like,
options
different
on how
ideas.
they do.
Supervisor Towns?
Comparable size.
Yes.
Thank you, sure. I did have one other question about the accounting practice. In that, and I didn't bring, come from home, so I didn't bring my paper with me, but in the listing of the assets that were being depreciated, the total amount included two things that were not pieces of equipment, and they were on a considerably longer.
Oh, come in here.
Or is it?
Yeah, that was the salt shed and the building that are
Yeah.
up here.
So, and why are those? They're.
One was 4 million almost, and the other was
Yeah.
100,000.
Why are those included in there? And are we gonna take those out of there?
So. I don't know the behind the scenes conversations and discussions and decision making that went into when these budgets were built. The prior years when the budgets were built, and the suggestion or recommendation to use fund balance or highway fund balance to fund these two facilities. So you would need to, like, they just still need to be depreciated. That depreciation is still going to be calculated and still be expensed out every year. But, you could say, you know what, we're going to attribute $5 million in sales tax or $5 million in something to get them off of like being paid back
But
the
if we-
depreciation,
that would be
whatever it is.
Half of it.
Exactly, that's how, but I'm just saying, if we throw $14.7 million into this thing. All we should be getting back on that is the $87,000 of appreciation every year for a 40-year asset.
Right.
We shouldn't be doing anything more for that.
Right.
Right, I mean, that shores everything that immediately stops
Stops it in.
any other, anything now should be fund money coming back.
Mhm.
Everything,
Yeah.
it shouldn't be.
Right.
Unless we start doing more asset purchases. Right.
So that in my mind, that kind of begs the question, and should we be doing something to pay for this $4 million and get that off? That would have what we have to
Figure out.
make good.
We would just
And
need to determine what that funding source is. Is it
Well,
general fund unassigned
I-
fund balance? Is it an
Sales tax
allocation of
or-
sales
Well,
tax
yeah.
for a year?
Just
Is
can't
it,
borrow.
whatever. You
Then-
can't borrow for it.
No.
unfortunately.
no, but it's probably errantly in there. In my mind, that change we need an accounted for there. And so we would just fund that outright. This year, then we would. And we're talking about all these other new projects, maybe we should fund that first, because it's.
Basically, all this is deferred funding of a project
Yes.
that should have been funded.
Funded in a
a
different way. Yep.
That's all there is. It should have been paid for either through a borrowing or through sales tax or not. I mean, instead it got. There must have been, the fund must have been running surpluses, Bob, at that point in time, to them, to think that you could do this.
That was last year, it was in surplus.
Yeah, of course.
Other questions? Other comments from supervisors on the committee? I take it that we're in agreement with the recommendation that there be joint meetings established between finance and highways to delve into this a little bit further. Are there specific pieces of information that we haven't covered that you'd like to ask staff to bring to us at the first meeting? Supervisor Schwartz.
Thank you, Ken. I think the only thing we need is a formal opinion on that Rock Haven fund balance. Well, since it's been in surplus now for many years, it's a long-term surplus. What if our possible abilities of using it? I'm saying it should, but we need to understand what we got, and what we can do with it. That's one of the things I've.
Supervisor Towns.
And just to follow up, what I just, the beat an old drum, but when you're considering what you're gonna put in with high priority for KIPs, I think this should be considered. And I think it should be high priority, because I think we need to pay that off and get it out of there. And that would make a, but we still gotta come up with cash, the money, it's not. Doesn't change that, so it doesn't change the 8.5 million in that way, but. I think that needs to come out, and then we're talking about more.
Any other information that you want to have?
Final KIP, sort of what the plan is for the KIP for the 26 budget, just to, so we have a idea of what we're doing.
I just want to
Supervisor
make sure that I do appreciate people trying to
Yeah.
solve problems like this, because these are like tongue twisters. It's hard, but
Yeah,
I do, it'd be good to get it straightened out.
I do want to make one quick statement too. And I want to make sure too that there's not, even though I might get a little tight about this, it's not at you. It's at the situation. And certainly Dewey, you have nothing really to do with this, so I feel sorry for you having. Have to have this hanging on your head, because I don't think you made the decision, unless you're telling to say you did. To put this thing, that's 40-year asset into this fund, which I struggle with, so. So yeah, I know this is gonna be. Unfortunately, this is gonna be a hard pill to swallow. If we try to deal with it quickly. Hopefully we can get some adjustments made. Maybe change the rules just a little bit, so we're not driving ourselves to tax, try to go find or cut, because at some point though. This is a problem bigger than just the highway fund, because quite frankly. The money that got used back in 2018 that ended up going into, that should have been used for the building or whatever, not for something else. So other department, this is not a DPW.
How do you want to go about setting a meeting for the joint meeting?
I would recommend, defer to Chair Alwini as chair of both,
Yeah.
you know.
Aha,
Mary.
Just chuckles.
Mary, you have an assignment.
How about next Thursday?
I'm in.
You know,
It should work.
John,
Fourth.
you're,
Thursday doesn't work for me, you know that, but that doesn't mean that.
Depends on what time that would work. I'm happy to work with you, Chair Mawini, on trying to do like a doodle poll across everyone. To see times of day and dates, if that works.
Sounds
Did
good.
the doodle poll work okay for finance committee when I sent that out?
I didn't get it.
Oh.
That's getting up. I'll watch for you.
Okay,
I comment on that.
yeah, did
I
it work
did
okay?
get it, but yet I just looked at the first page, and after I responded to the first couple of dates, it dropped down after I hit send
Okay,
and saw there were
oh, you saw, you
two
didn't
more
see,
options that I
oh,
did
sure,
not see.
okay,
So I thought, oops, you know,
Oh.
I just missed it.
sure,
It just showed a couple of days and
Okay.
to make those, and
okay,
so there were more options than I was aware of. So
okay.
now I know that too, so they
Mhm.
look a little harder.
The preference is sometime next week.
And early is better. No, I don't like 8 o'clock meetings. That's bedtime.
That might be easier than you
So
could
did
take
we
a
come
moment
to a
to,
date?
what,
Did we come to a date?
for
No,
next week?
Well, we don't have part of the committee here,
Right.
yeah,
so I think that, it'll have to, that's why I wouldn't,
Then-
I just kind of from many years. if half the group isn't here, it's always best to just defer. We'll talk to Chair Mulwiney and then come back, because it's also trying to mold a lot of schedules of people who aren't just in here, as well as our auditors. To see if they can come, because that was one of the asks. So I would want to consult with several different things and then find it, the messages
For
sooner
next
the
week.
better. Yeah,
Right.
Right.
Right,
And-
and I can send out, a
So-
poll either this evening yet still or right away tomorrow morning. So we can try and get that on the books right away.
Okay.
If that works with, everyone. And then, the auditors will be at finance committee on September 11th. As well as county board. So if you're, if you have some specific questions for them, they'll be available at that time as well.
Excuse me, did you say they'd be at finance also?
Yes. They will be at finance as well.
All right.
Can I also just make mention, thank you everyone for being very flexible to meeting in the morning on September 11th for me so that I can be elsewhere for a wedding rehearsal in the evening. And Supervisor Wilson brought to my attention that planning and development meets at 8 AM on those Thursdays. So I'm wondering, would 9 AM instead of the 8 AM that I originally suggested for our normal finance
Works better
committee?
for me.
Would that work
9
okay?
a.m., yeah.
9 AM for September 11th, normal finance committee meeting. And that will have like our bills to pay, the normal things. The auditors will be there to do the 2024 report of the audit. I was going to have the paying agent on there, but she's not able to make it in the morning, the paying agent stuff. So we're just gonna move that to October. We're looking to move that to October.
In this room.
Yes, in this room and one and two. Cause I don't know if jury deliberation room would need to be used or not, so.
Mike, does that time work for you?
Yes, I'll make it work.
Okay.
Thank you very much for being flexible. I appreciate that.
I want to thank the committee. I think, obviously we all knew that we weren't coming into this committee today, coming out of it with a solution. But I think we understand some of the parameters a little bit better and we'll get there. This point, motion to adjourn would be in order.
Second.
A motion and a second to adjourn. All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Bye.
Any opposed? Thank you all. See you, Rich.